Hey friends, let's talk about a phenomenon most people in Beijing and Shanghai refuse to look at. It's not missiles over Taiwan. It's not Evergrande's ghost towers. It's something quieter, but far more devastating. Millions of Chinese workers, bags on their backs, kids in their arms, suitcases dragging behind them, are leaving the cities 2 months before the Lunar New Year. Not to go home for the holidays. They're leaving because the cities have no work left for them. They're leaving because rent is too expensive. They're leaving because the economic engine that lifted China for 40 years has started to cough, sputter, and stall. This isn't migration, it's a retreat. And when a nation's people start retreating from its cities, you know the story is no longer about prosperity. It's about survival. Walk into any train station right now. It looks like Spring Festival, but it's not. Farm workers slinging snakeskin bags, graduates dragging suitcases, young couples pushing strollers. They're not going home early. They're giving up the city. Why? Because the math no longer works. A migrant worker who once earned 6,000 RMB in Beijing now earns half that, if they can find work at all. A college graduate who dreamed of a big city career is now part of the 40% who returned home after graduation because their job offers evaporated. This isn't nostalgia, it's financial triage. Take the family that recently went viral on Chinese social media. Wife used to work in a Beijing restaurant. Now she's back home making 3,000 RMB at a cake shop that often can't even pay full wages. Her husband bounced from temporary publishing jobs to electrician work. But with the real estate collapse, even electrician jobs are drying up. 6 months old infant, two elderly parents with 200 RMB pensions, income cut in half, and social mobility cut to zero. Multiply this story by millions. That's China today. The little pinks love to brag. China's urbanization rate is 67%. We're a modern nation. But here's the part nobody says out loud. 280 million migrant workers do not have urban hukou, a residency program that discriminates against China's own citizens. Strip them out, and the real urbanization rate is closer to 30%, lower than the US and far behind Japan. China's cities look modern, but inside they're held up by a fragile underclass with no rights, no services, and no safety net. The cities were built on their labor. Now the cities no longer need them, and they are being pushed out the back door of the economy. In the year 2008 was the moment everything broke. People think China took off after 2008. No, that was the year the model cracked. The 4 trillion yuan stimulus shifted China from labor intensive, job rich growth to a system addicted to real estate, infrastructure, capital intensive industries, high leverage, high fixed investment. Great for GDP numbers, great for local officials chasing promotions, great for billionaires, terrible for ordinary workers. Since 2009, household income as a share of GDP has frozen at 45%, one of the lowest in the world. China's economy grew, but its people stopped growing with it. Look at the recent numbers. Beijing's restaurant and lodging profits fell 67% this year. Hotels down 92.9%. The average hotel made just 37,000 RMB in the first half of the year. Household borrowing in October didn't just slow, it collapsed to 360 billion RMB. People are not borrowing, they're paying down debt early because they expect storms ahead. Short-term household credit, the money people use to consume, fell by 280 billion RMB. Less consumption leads to more layoffs, which leads to even weaker consumption. This is the downward spiral economists pretend doesn't exist, but people feel it in their bones. China keeps bragging, we're investing in chips, in AI, in high tech, in space. Sure, but here's the truth. A chip factory burns tens of billions in capital, while a clothing factory employs hundreds. What happens when all the money flows to industries that hire almost no one? Fewer jobs, more inequality, and AI automation replacing workers even faster. You can build 1,000 semiconductor fabs, but they won't save a generation that has no income. By the way, if you found this breakdown helpful, hit like and share it with someone who still believes China's recovery story. And if you want deeper geopolitical and macro insights like this, join my free newsletter, the China Crash Chronicle. Link in the description. Now, here comes the brutal truth. There are really two Chinas. There is China strutting on the world stage, challenging the United States, shipping electric cars to Europe, launching rockets, talking big. And there is China B deflation, collapsed consumption, stagnant household income, families too scared to spend, youth unemployment far above the official 20%. China A fights for global influence. China B is trying to pay rent. The Great Return Home movement is China B screaming for help. For 30 years, 200 million migrant workers sent money home every month. This was China's invisible welfare system, the real engine behind village prosperity. Now, the flow has reversed. Workers are returning home, but the money is not. Rural economies that once thrived on remittances are hollowing out. The CCP knows this is dangerous. It's why they bragged about 13 million returning entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship loans, tax incentives, slogans. But let's be honest. Not everyone can become Jack Ma by going home to open a steamed bun shop. Most have no capital, no customers, no path upward. Local governments will be crushed by more people, more need, less revenue, collapsing vitality. And historically, idle, impoverished rural populations become political problems. China has seen this movie before. So has the world. Now, why is domestic demand dead in China? This part is critical, and almost no one dares to say it. China's biggest economic problem is not technology. Not the US, not chips, not sanctions. It's weak domestic demand caused by massive absolute poverty. As Professor Xu Chenggang put it, China has over 540 million people living on less than $5 a day. Let that sink in. More than half the country cannot consume and cannot participate in the modern economy. In this system, land is state-owned and government takes the wealth. Banks are state-owned and government takes the profits. Highways, energy, and upstream sectors are state-dominated and private firms bleed out. Government fiscal revenue grows faster than GDP, and households get a shrinking slice of the pie. Household income as a percentage of GDP, among the lowest on earth. With no income, there is no spending. With no spending, businesses die. With businesses dying, youth unemployment explodes. With unemployment exploding, families panic and save every yuan. This is why newly printed money goes right back into bank deposits. People are scared, and they should be. And here's the irony: China's tech miracle didn't come from a perfect domestic system. It came from the US, Europe, and Japan. Students studying overseas, talent trained at MIT, Stanford, Microsoft Research Asia. Engineers who brought back Western systems, methods, and standards. A generation that learned from globalization. Now that the West sees China as a threat, it is cutting those links. Students, labs, technology, partnerships, knowledge flows. Without that infusion, China's tech frontier will slow, and the gap will widen again. So, what does this return home wave really show? Not just personal choices, not just economic adjustment, but the structural cracks in China's entire development model. China produces 30% plus of the world's manufactured goods, but domestic consumption absorbs only 13%. That imbalance is a flashing red warning light. An economy can run hot on capital, land, and investment for decades, but eventually it must rest on the shoulders of ordinary people. Right now, those shoulders are buckling, and the people carrying China's rise, the workers, the migrants, the young, are laying down their burdens and walking home. Not because they want to, because they've run out of options.